To me, one of the best ways to grow as an angler is to always be willing to learn, always strive to learn. Every time you hit the body of water, try to learn something either about the bass or the water that you are fishing. And I know that for me, it seems like every year that passes, especially here in Ohio, because we kind of have a winter and it kind of gives you time to reflect over things that have happened. But every year it seems like there's either a general theme or a general technique that really stands out, that really can just help you throughout the rest of like your fishing career or whatever you want to call it. For example, I remember when I was like 17 years old, I had this year where I fished a drop shot a ton, and I felt like I really learned everything about a drop shot in this one year that really helped me throughout the rest of my life. And every year there's a theme or a technique. And this year for me, something that just continues to get pounded in my head, it's something that I know, but it's something that I've really seen a lot, is that one fish, one quality bite can really tell you a lot about a fishery, or it can help you to find more bass. So in this video, I want to talk specifically about that. Now, before we get into it, this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Finn Fishing. You guys know that right now for the month of August, if you buy one of my USA made sun shirts, I have multiple different colors, solid colors, camo colors. But if you buy one of the USA made sun shirts, you actually get this shirt right here, which is a tri-blend t-shirt, absolutely free. It's kind of a cream colored, it's the American Bass t-shirt. It's absolutely free with the purchase of a sun shirt. So all you gotta do, add the sun shirt that you like to cart, add the size of the t-shirt, the American Bass t-shirt you like to cart, it will automatically discount at checkout. Shopping at Finn Fishing is truly the best way to help support this channel, and I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate all of you who have done that. Now, let's talk about this theme. And like I said, this is not necessarily something that is super new to me, but I feel like at the same time, it has really been pounded into my head this year. And this actually kind of this conversation to me derives off of a recent trip that I made down to North Carolina. And I was kind of competing against another angler in a video that's actually, I just posted it on BassFishingHQ, so I will link it over there. And in this video, I only had like 5 hours to go out there and try to find bass on a lake that I had never seen in my life. I decided prior to me fishing that I was gonna beat the bank. I'm like, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna beat the bank, and that is what I'm going to do, because I just felt like that was the best for me in the limited amount of time that I had. Now, with that being said, my favorite word to say, I had a fish that blew up right next to the boat after I had just caught a fish off the bank, but it blew up, you know, like 10 feet away from me over probably 30 foot of water. I pitched my wacky worm over to that fish and I caught that fish, and it wasn't a great big one by any means, but in that moment, I really thought, man, maybe I should start concentrating on fish that are out. Maybe I should go out and look for more schooling activity and fish that are busting, or, you know, even use my live sonar and try to find fish. But I was very hard-headed in the moment as well. And I'm like, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's just go shallow water fishing, and let's just go have at it in shallow water. Well, long story short, the guy that I was fishing kind of against, he was fishing more out. He was using his live scope and he was catching a lot of fish, and that was definitely the way to catch him on that day. But I was a little bit hard-headed and wanted to stay up shallow. But that one fish kind of told me what I needed to see. And that has happened to me so many times out there on the water. And I just want to talk to you about that real quick, really about 3 big things. And these are all tournament situations that I'm going to bring up to you, but whether you are a tournament fisherman or not, I think you can still learn a lot from this. And so the first thing that I want to talk about is a tournament that I fished on Lake Oneida up in New York. And this was a number of years ago. It was a Bassmaster Open, and I was fishing through a lot of areas really, really quick, and I primarily fished by myself during the Bassmaster Opens. But on this particular day, a guy who lives here in Ohio decided he would was going to jump in the boat with me during practice because he was fishing the tournament as a co-angler and just be my co-angler for the day. He actually did it on several different tournaments. And we went through this one little area, and I was using a topwater bite, did not get a blow up or nothing. And he ends up hooking into a fish behind me on a drop shot in this one little area that looked good. It had rocks, it had grass, it just set up where I'm like, man, there should be fish here. There was bait, but I didn't get bit on that topwater. But he hooks into a fish, and it was a big one. It was like nearly 4 pounds, which is a big one for Lake Oneida. And it actually came off on the side of the boat. And this is the day before the tournament starts. And that was the last bite. He didn't get another bite there. I didn't get another bite there, and I left. But I did mark that fish because I just have a habit nowadays that anytime a quality fish bites a bait or whatever it may be, I mark it on my GPS unit. Well, the very next day during the tournament, I went to like my 3 or 4 actually areas that I thought I would catch fish in really good in this tournament, and I had 1 2.5 pounder. 1 2.5 pounder. And I was getting ready to go to my 5th area, and it kind of just came into my head that that spot where my co-angler had lost that big fish the day before was like just around the corner. So I'm like, you know what, let's just stop there real quick, fish it and leave. You know, spend 5 minutes there and just see what happens. And I tell you what, guys, I pulled up into that area and I caught 16.5 pounds on a topwater bait in about 10 minutes. It was insane. And when I got there, what I realized is that there was actually a small mayfly hatch happening. And so I caught my 16 pounds and then I just kind of let it go and ended up running across the lake. I think I called up maybe 1 or 2 times. And the very next day in that tournament, I came right back to that place. And I only caught 1 in that exact area where I'd caught 16 pounds, but there was a point that was just inside of the kind of the hump where I had caught those fish. And I decided to move up there and I caught 2 big ones. And then I moved just a little bit further inside and I caught 2 more big ones. And so I ended up getting 18th in this event out of 200 plus anglers. And it was really because of that 1 bite that my co-angler had. So just think about that. Like, to me, I always think about the small things, but it was just 1 bite. Now, that's not the only time that is something like that has happened to me. You know, a number of years ago, and I've told this story a couple times, but I was fishing down on the Harris chain of lakes down in Florida. And throughout the practice of this Bassmaster Open, I could not catch fish. Like everywhere I went, every bite I got, it was like a 12 to 14 incher. I think I caught 1 4 pounder in practice and that was it. And during that tournament, the first day of the tournament, my game plan was I'm gonna go run every single spot that I caught a fish and just see what happens, which is a terrible game plan when you're fishing in Florida. For those of you who fish in Florida, you know that typically a lot of big bags come from small areas. Well, about the 3rd or 4th spot that I showed up on that day, I had caught 1 fish there actually on the first day of practice, and I caught 1 fish there on the very last day of practice. Both of them were just keeper-sized fish. They weren't even really that big of fish. I pulled up to this area, I fished through it, I didn't catch any fish. I go to pick my trolling motor up. As a matter of fact, I pull it out of the water and I make 1 Hail Mary cast out to kind of this point. I'm dragging my worm across this point and I get a bite, I set the hook, it's a 4 pounder, which is a big fish. I put it in the boat, I cast back out there, bam, another one hits it, it's a 2.5 pounder. And long story short, I ended up fishing in that area for not only that day, but almost the entire rest of the day. And I didn't end up catching them all in that exact area. I just kind of mingled around with my trolling motor. There were some pads in that area. I moved up into the pads and I dialed in a fish in literally a 100-yard section. In that tournament, I got, I think, 25th place out of, again, 200 plus anglers and cut a $3,000 check. And it was really because of 1 bite. 1 single bite, which is just crazy to me. I can't even, I don't know. It's just crazy to me. So the last thing that I want to tell you guys is that, or the last story I want to tell you is a tournament that I hold very near and dear to myself because It was a tournament on Lake Chickamauga. It was the first time I'd ever been to Chickamauga in my entire life. And it was a very daunting task to try to break down this body of water. It was in the middle of May. I had decided to fish offshore, which is what I love to do, and I was struggling really, really bad. I moved across this one random flat on one of the practice days. I think this was the second to last practice day. And I saw some grass in about 6 and 7 foot of water. I marked it with my GPS. I went and fished some shallow stuff. I came back out. I made one cast there. In the first cast, boom, boom, a fish hits my big worm. And I actually shook that fish off. Never even saw what that fish was. And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to make another cast here. Boom, boom, got another bite. So then I moved about 20 yards away and I fished probably for a half hour, no other bites the rest of the day. Or at least for the rest of that half hour, but I'm like, hey, maybe it's a spot I can come and catch a fish. I came back during the first day of the tournament just to make cast in that one lineup where I'd got 2 bites. I ended up catching 20 pounds of bass right there. The next day I caught 14 pounds. I fished the championship day and I caught almost 18 pounds. I got 4th place. It was my best tournament I have ever had on the Bassmaster Opens. And it was really all because of, well, really it was 2 bites in that case. And so it just goes to show that sometimes what I think happens a lot is that you can actually be on the front end of fish being in an area. So sometimes you're actually there before they get there and you're catching those first fish that move in. And so sometimes if you come back later in the day, maybe in the next day, like I did in these particular events, all these fish might be in a small area that were never there. And so one fish, especially a quality fish, can make such a big difference. And it can really help you to dial in either an area, a fishery, or even a pattern at times. And these are just 3. I picked those 3 times because to me, they were all times where it actually made me money, like in Bassmaster Open events. And I just thought it was crazy. But this happens even when I'm just out there fun fishing all the time. So guys, I know this is kind of a long-winded, video of me just saying to look out for that one fish. But when you catch that one fish, put the brakes on, really dial in. Why was that fish there? What was it doing? What did I catch it on? What cover was it in? What depth was it in? Why was it there? And it can sometimes that one fish can help you so much. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, comment down below. Don't forget to check out that fin gear, and I will see you guys tomorrow.